Good evening, viewing audience. Welcome to another episode of Bilalian Voices. Today is May 2nd, 2024. This is episode 11. And today we have Imam Rafeeq Mohammed by way of Atlanta, Georgia. We have a dynamic conversation that we plan to have with him today in regards to the resignation of Imam W. Deen Mohammed in 2003. As always, we greet, as we Muslims greet, peace be upon you. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
I am your host, Imam Terenzo El-Amin, here in Cincinnati, Ohio, joined with my co-host, Imam Hanif Abdul Wahid, out of Rochester, New York. And before we get into our conversation with Imam Rafeeq Mohammed, we'd like to give a few announcements in regards to the public addresses that we will be attending throughout the country. This Sunday, May 5th, Imam Earl Abdul Malik Muhammad will be returning to the city of Detroit, Michigan for a major public address. His address is entitled, Cities of America Come Alive, Islam and the Salvation Road. Doors open at 1:30 p.m. The program will begin at 2 p.m. The address is 111 East Kirby at the Metropolitan Institute of Detroit, and it is free and open to the public. On Sunday, June 2nd, Imam Earl Abdul Malik Muhammad has been invited by the citizens of Dallas, Texas, to give a major public address entitled, Standing in the Last Days, Islam, Humanity, and an Intelligent Morality. For more information on this event in Dallas, Texas, you can go to MuslimAmericanMinistry.com. And on July 6th, our Imam will be returning for the fourth time to Rochester, New York for the annual Independence Day weekend public address. His public address is entitled, The Sacred Aim of Neighborhood Excellence, Restoring the Lost Property of the American People. For more information, you can go to MuslimAmericanMinistry.com. Now we would like to get into our discussion with Imam Rafeeq Mohammed. Before we play the video clip, we would like to just give a little background. In 2003, Imam W. Deen Mohammed announced his resignation from the imams, not the community of believers. He had his representative, Imam Earl Abdul Malik Muhammad, announce it at our biggest event, the annual Muslim Convention, which was held every Labor Day in Chicago, Illinois. It meant something significant then in 2003, and it means something significant now. Let us view the clip and have a discussion with Imam Rafeeq on the other side.
Douglas and Booker T. Washington and Dr. King and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad are to be realized in our efforts as we go forward as Muslim Americans under the leadership of Imam W. Deen Mohammed. Now, it is my duty to announce to you, upon the request of Imam Mohammed, that he has resigned as leader of the American Society of Muslims in order to devote more time to the work of his ministry and to pursue other special projects with the help of his assistants, such as the further growth of CPC Comtrust and the community model for which he is looking presently for land. Further, Imam W. Deen Mohammed plans to increase contact with and service to all good Muslims, national and international Muslim organizations, He also plans to continue and increase his contact and work with all good non-Muslim and non-Muslim organizations. Now, it would not be prudent or appropriate or wise for me to try to interpret Imam Muhammad's resignation to you of leadership of the American Society of Muslims. But I can say this to you, that no force of nature, no spirit, no influence, no person, no group can ever separate me from Imam W. Deen Mohammed. No personality, no group, no group of leaders could ever separate you from Imam W. Thank you. Peace.
We thank Imam Rafeeq Mohammed, spokesman for Imam W. Deen Mohammed. And we can see from what he has said and how it resonates in our hearts at this moment why he is such an eloquent spokesman and why he should be respected in our messages and sentences.
Praises be to Allah. Well, that was very compelling, and the evidence is on tape. And Imam Earl Abdul Malik Muhammad, what he said to the crowd that day, it holds true today. But Imam Rafeeq, I want to hear your reaction to this here. I think yourself, me, and Brother Terenzo, we remember being there. So could you give us your reflections on that day and how you felt that day?
Well, I can tell you honestly, I really couldn't understand what was going on. I didn't understand it. I didn't really figure out what had happened until I got back to Baltimore. And then I was able to hear conversations, and I had conversations with Imam Abdul Malik Muhammad in Baltimore. And then I kind of was able to put everything together because really, even when I was informed of it, it was still hard for me to believe and hard for me to understand it. But, after having conversations with the people who were with Imam W. Muhammad in Baltimore, then I kind of understood what was going on.
Well, I'll tell you my small reflection of it, and listen to Imam Earl Abdul Malik Muhammad in his remarks. He mentioned Frederick Douglass and Booker T. Washington, and those are our ancestors. And Imam Muhammad is delivering in their same spirit. And somehow that got misinterpreted by our community as that being a focus and an aim for us. And I think that had something to contribute to that, but we'll have the opportunity to ask Imam Earl Abdul Malik Muhammad a little bit more about this here. But on that day, it was very, very clear the enthusiasm that Imam Earl Abdul Malik Muhammad had said. He says, no spirit, no might, there's no group, there's no effort that can turn him away from Imam W. Deen Mohammed. And in his refrain, which was almost a call and answer, he said that to us. And I can recall that day us standing on our feet and saying the same thing. So that is tremendous. But these are one of these important tapes that you have curated for the community. And they're time sensitive. That goes back into our history when we're somewhat confused of the facts of where we should be today. And based upon that tape right there, would you say that we're supposed to be right now?
Not even close. It seems to me that most of the people have abandoned all of that. Most of what Imam W. Muhammad left for us to study and to use to advance our life, most of the community, they've abandoned most of it. You know, the most important thing to me from what Imam Abdul Malik Muhammad, him speaking at the convention and delivering the message, Imam W. Muhammad was saying to the people, I believe, that we have a future.
Mm-hmm.
So most of them have abandoned that. So yeah, nowhere near where we should be.
So when we look at the Muslim American Ministry for Human Salvation, can we juxtapose that where we're at today is where that spirit, in terms of us not turning away from Imam W.D. Muhammad, that we're making that same progress and reviving that message from 2003. We see it today in 2024 up under the leadership of Imam Earl Abdul Malik Muhammad.
Yeah, we're where we're supposed to be.
Yeah.
The people who are following Imam Abdul Malik Muhammad now are where they're supposed to be. That's how, I mean, think about him at that age delivering that kind of a message. Imam W. Muhammad didn't tell him what to say. That's not the only time that he said that. He also said that in Newark. Right after that, because after the Imam resigned from the ASM, there was one of the Imams that said that he was going to restart the ASM from Newark. And then Imam W. Muhammad went to Newark and addressed it, and Imam Abdul Malik spoke sort of the same kind of sentiments in Newark with Imam W. Muhammad. So it all goes together.
Mm-hmm. So the Imam that followed Imam Abdul Malik to the rostrum, he said an important thing is that Imam Abdul Malik is an individual who we should respect, who we should listen to, who is very, very capable of delivering a message for Imam W.D. Muhammad. We heard that, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
That was from him. He told that to a crowd. I think that crowd had to be in excess of maybe 12 to maybe 15,000 people in the 2003 convention.
Yeah, about
this was said to all of us to the degree, and as we see it today, it rings true to that. Can I get your response on that?
Well, Imam W. Muhammad, you know, a lot of people in our community, they don't think of him, I don't believe, they think of him as a scholar. They also kind of underestimate him as a master strategist. Like, this is the son of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the man who decoded all of the mysteries of Master Farad. So a master strategist, Imam W. Muhammad doesn't do things by accident. I don't believe. I believe with having Imam Abdul Malik Muhammad deliver that message was strategic. And I believe that most of the imams, like I've said before, they know what the situation was and what Imam W.D. Muhammad was doing with Imam Abdul Malik Muhammad all of that time. And that's the public statements that go along with that he has pointed to Imam Abdul Malik Muhammad over and over and over again. So most of the imams, they knew it. The record shows that this is the man that we should look to for leadership.
Yes. I want to ask Imam Terenzo El Amin, because he has coined a very rhetorical phrase for us, and it's starting to go around the country and hopefully throughout the world. Who is speaking like this here? And in 2003, Imam, you were there too. Could you give us your reflections? You're on mute.
As Imam Rafeeq stated, that was my third. It was his second. It was my third convention. And as he mentioned, I didn't really fully understand what was taking place. But as you mentioned, Imam Waheed, Imam Earl Abdul Malik Muhammad, the representative for Imam W. Deen Mohammed, who announced his resignation, he gave us a lot of strength in what he said about no force of nature, no spirit, no influence, no personality, no group. And when I look at the video, Imam Rafeeq, I see a continuation. The man has not deviated, not one iota. He is still with that same spirit that he stressed in 2003 that we all should take in support of Imam W. Deen Mohammed. Could you speak to that, how this man has not deviated, despite what the criticizers may say?
Never has. It's a devotion for our people, and he has that. That's why I mean, before all of this, I used to look at him as the successor, even though I didn't have that kind of language. I didn't have the language of successor, but I always said, well, even when he was no longer the representative of Imam W. Mohammed, and a lot of people who were around at that time disappeared. I never disappeared because I always saw that. I saw that in him. I saw that he had a love and a devotion and dedication to service for his people. And that is what separates him from the rest.
Well, it would seem to me that some of the imams that we have today, they look at us as supporters of Imam Abdul Malik Muhammad and say to us that we're not supposed to believe our lying eyes or something like that. We're looking at this. We're giving you the evidence. You've had your day to where you have laid out erroneous evidence and the claim that leadership is local and that we don't need a leader. And we've been coming on here for the past 10 weeks to put before the people our argument and evidence that leadership is alive and that the Imam Muhammad has intended for us to have a leader that would succeed him and continue on. And that leader and successor is Imam Earl Abdul Malik Muhammad. We've come to that conclusion. And so our show almost each and every week, we're adding to the evidences of that. And so Imam Rafeeq, you're noted in the community here as being a curator of the voice of Imam W. Deen Mohammed in terms of his tapes, his messaging. You have vouchsafed these things. We've got a clip that is coming up that you might give us some insight on a little later with that. But this job that you're doing in terms of preserving these things, right? That can you speak not just of the importance of it, but the joy that you get doing that because this historical voice of Imam W. Deen Mohammed, we cannot let that be buried.
Well, I consider myself a partner in the work with Imam Abdul Malik Muhammad. And we had a conversation a long time ago. And he told me when Imam W. Deen Mohammed shared with him, and he told him to keep his burial shroud clean. He shared that with me. And I never forgot it. And I was always looking for a way to assist and use my skills and whatever I have to bring to the table to assist. And when we discussed the gathering of the tapes to try to preserve them and things like that, it was just something that I had the talent and ability to do. And I thought it was necessary because for some reason, I had a feeling. It was like a feel, like something like a sense. I didn't really know for sure. But I could sense it that if somebody didn't act, whether it was me or whoever, we were going to lose a lot of what Imam W. Muhammad taught.
Yeah. And
that turned out to be a fact. Later, if you look back on it now, and I see there's been a lot of things that I've collected that when I finally got to it, put the tape in, it's nothing but snow, you know? So a lot of things have been lost already. So I knew if we didn't start to digitize and preserve a lot of the teachings, it was going to be at risk of being lost. And I just felt like it was necessary to get on that immediately because we were going to need the record to advance our life when the Imam was no longer with us.
Your intuitive senses are very, very keen, and I'd like to turn it back over to Imam Terenzo.
Yes, Imam Rafeeq, a question that I'd had on my mind for quite some time. The 1985 resignation of Imam W. Deen Mohammed. No problem locating that, getting on YouTube or whatever, people pointing to that. But no one brings up the 2003 resignation of Imam W. Deen Mohammed other than Imam Earl Abdul-Malik Muhammad. And from one of our recent classes, he mentioned how significant that resignation was because what transpired after that, as far as the people having freedom and having direct attachment to Imam W. Deen Mohammed without someone in between them and Imam W. Deen Mohammed. Could you speak to what brought about Imam W. Deen Mohammed resigning in 2003? As I understand it, he didn't go into the convention with that on his mind to resign.
Well, there's a story behind that. There was an imam, and this imam is well known in the community. And Imam W. Muhammad had given the Jummah, and this imam spoke after Imam W. Muhammad gave the Jummah. And basically was saying that the imam spoke, so now what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Like, he said this, and we're going to do, we're going to do something else. Or what are we going to do besides that? Not saying we should follow that, just different language in terms of, you know, maybe trying to confuse people a little bit. And that's not the first time that happened. I have many tapes. I have a tape of one imam having an interview with Imam W. Muhammad from the mid-'80s. And he asked him all very poignant questions. And then after the interview, this imam goes on for another 45 minutes trying to reinterpret everything that Imam W. Muhammad just said on that video. So this is not just a one-person thing. This is something that I have found in the record repeated from multiple imams in our community. So I think that Imam W. Muhammad, he heard it and was just like, I'm done. He's frustrated.
I think that the imams that said those things, they had the attitude that the imam is somewhat unlettered, and that because of their maybe educational background or some leaning that they thought that they had in them for knowledge, is that they can contest the leader, and that was a continuous thing as we hear it now, and we're discovering these things. There's possibly other tapes that you may have uncovered that will lend to this here. So I hope we can be assured that we'll continue to find this evidence here and just present it.
I can share another conversation with you that's recorded. Imam W. Muhammad is having a conversation with an imam, not the two previous I just mentioned. Those are two different imams. This is a different guy. So we talking about three. This is the third imam. So he's having a conversation with this imam that's high in the wizard order. He might be one of the top one or two. And they having a conversation about this particular imam telling the other imams that they need to follow Imam W Muhammad for once. He said, I'd say to the other imams that they should follow you for once. Let's just do it and see what happens. This is what he's saying, Imam W Muhammad.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not old. This is like 2003. So Imam W Muhammad just listened because the thing is recorded. So like he's kind of like getting the imam to just tell him more, but the whole thing is recorded conversation. And so they started to talk about some of the imams and how they have this stranglehold over these masjids, and they try to control the influences in these masjids. And so this particular wizard imam, he's saying, well, you know, they can try to block me, but I go anywhere and teach. I go to all these places and teach. And so Imam W Muhammad says to him, he says, do you think they want me there? In other words, to say, you can go all of these different places and you can teach in these masjids, but they don't want me there because you don't represent what I represent. That's why they invite you there, but they don't want me there because if they wanted me there, they invite me and not you. But it goes straight over these imams' head. And then they start to talk about one of the imams, particularly in the community that specifically does that. But it's a recorded conversation.
Yeah. Well, you're doing an excellent job as a curator. And as we uncover these things, we're going to let the listening audience hear it and draw from their conclusions. But the continuation for Imam W. Deen Mohammed's leadership is being lived and realized in his successor, Imam Earl Abdul Malik Muhammad, and us as the followers of that there. And we just like to say to our listening audience is that you need to at least listen to the language that Imam Earl Abdul Malik Muhammad is speaking. And you will hear that continuation of Imam Muhammad leadership. And you can make a determination then and there. All of these things that we are saying, they have a degree of guidance for us, a continued guidance in that tradition. So one last question, I guess, before we turn it back over to Imam Terenzo, is that as you have curated these materials, have you found recently any other materials that you possibly have uncovered that, I mean, all the materials are important, but it leads to where Imam Muhammad wanted us to be in the future?
Oh, absolutely. There's so many of them. You know, Imam Wahid, there's if you look at the whole record in its entirety, most of the things that we have collected and preserved that we can draw from, most of it, well, at least 50% of it is an indictment on the local leaders. There's contentious relationships between Imam W. Muhammad and the local leaders. This goes on from the beginning to the end. I believe that is the main reason why they are hell-bent on giving materials to the public and the people to try to reinterpret the message, the language. Because if a person looks at the whole record, they will come away with an understanding that Imam W. Muhammad had a big problem with these guys. Mm-hmm. You don't have to dig hard to try to find that. So it's a whole lot there. But I believe that the main reason that they have these Qurans with Imam W. Muhammad's name on it, and trying to reinterpret the language and edit materials, is because the whole record indicts most of them.
Imam Rafeeq, in the video that we just watched, where Imam Earl of Deen Mohammed is delivering the resignation for Imam W. Deen Mohammed. At the conclusion, the individual that came up behind Imam Earl of Deen Mohammed said these words, and I thought it was interesting. An eloquent spokesperson and why he should be respected in our masjids and centers. Can you speak of the treatment towards Imam Earl of Deen Mohammed when he was the representative for Imam W. Deen Mohammed? Because it seemed like he's saying something there.
Yeah, he's saying a lot. And like we were saying earlier, I think that if you're honest, you know that Imam W. Mohammed having him deliver the message is saying to the local leaders in the world that we have a future. Even though I'm resigning, we still have a future. And Imam Abdul Malik is the future. And I think that the brother saying that is acknowledging that in a way that he's somebody that we should look to in our local messages and centers.
You made a comment. You said the Imam had a big problem with these local imams. I'd like to share a quote from Imam W. Deen Mohammed from a clip that we'll play shortly. They put, quote, they put a limit on my own thinking and how much of my own words would reach their congregation. That they didn't want. And fight against that. And if it reached them, the congregation, then they would be the ones to interpret what I said that needed no interpretation. But they would say, let me explain to you what Imam Muhammad means. I have to explain to you. Let me tell you what the Imam is saying. You know, that's so they can give their own message to the people under the pretense that they are clearing up what I said. I have gone through that for years, and it's sickening because I don't think it is any excuse for an imam to be that small-minded. End of quote. And that is a quote that comes a week after Imam Muhammad's resignation.
And see, that's an important piece of the puzzle, because this is why they don't mention the 2003 resignation, because it was more specific and direct as to the reasoning for the resignation. In the 1985 resignation, the Imam gave an address, and we have that address, it's recorded. But, you know, it was speaking more of reducing it from having a big organization with a lot of overhead to a small organization with not much overhead. But 2003 is very direct and to the point of the local leaders are the problem. The Imam W. Mohammed met with them after he resigned, and that's recorded too in the Imam's meeting. And I had listened to the whole thing, and he told them, you know, what the situation was, and most of them were laughing, you know, not taking it seriously. They weren't even taking it serious. All recorded. And then this interview that he did with this brother on the record to say, this is the reason why I'm resigning. So they can't, none of the imams can say, oh, no, that's not the case. That's not what happened, because the record shows that that's exactly why he resigned. So they're not going to mention it.
You know, there's when you bring this back up, as I recall, the decentralizing of the community from the American Muslim Mission in 1985. This is the thing that gave the imams this understanding, or this language of leadership is local. And it empowered those imams to take more control over the masjid in terms of messaging and everything else like that. Well, the imam didn't mean that, and they went off on that. And between 1985 and 2003, this is when they start snipping and interpreting the imam. We can even go to the this commentary book that was recently put out this is supposed to be language and speeches that the Imam has given through the duration of him being the leader of us. But Imam Muhammad has never looked at this material and authorized it. And so now that this book is out, once again, these folks are interpreting Imam W. Deen Mohammed. And they're endorsing this thing here. They rushed it a couple of times. And this is indicative of what we're facing right now. And so 1985, when the Imam decentralized our community, he did that for a strategic reason. And his reasoning is made evident. But these folks took the opportunity to say, the Imam says that we're Imams now too, and we should start going out. And these folks started going and inviting themselves to places in the country, making tapes of their voices and stuff like that up over the leader. And this is what we have today, which had led up to 2003. Do you somewhat see it like that, Imam Rafeeq, in terms of how this thing had somewhat crumbled down? Because you have all of the information in terms of curating this information, and we might be able to find it and put a chronology to it, but most certainly we have it on tape.
Yeah, I absolutely believe that's exactly what has happened, what has occurred. You know, we also have the Dawah meetings. Very important. All of those Dawah meetings, all those years, all the meetings that were ran by the Imams in terms of the Dawah, how to get the message out to the public. When I listened to them, 99% of what they talked about was selling Muslim journals. And for a long time I said, well, why is that? Why is that the main thing at the Dawah meeting? They really never really mentioned Imam W. Muhammad in terms of like we do with Imam Abdul Malik Muhammad. We want to see his face on billboards, and Imam Abdul Malik Muhammad was the one that did that for Imam W. Muhammad. The other Imams have never done anything like that for him, even when he visits their cities. So I found that, you know, when you look at the Muslim Journal, you see the Imam, they may have the Imam W. Muhammad on the page in the middle, 2 pages, but from the front and the back, it would be all the Imams in there promoting their materials and their tapes and their CDs. If one Imam had a whole left, right page, the same amount of space they would give Imam W. Muhammad, a left and a right page, selling his tafsir of the Quran in the Muslim Journal.
Right.
This has been going on for years. It's all recorded. This is why I believe that they are hell-bent on presenting something to the community to kind of hide that, to say, oh, Imam W. Muhammad, this is what he said. This is what he represented. But then they give you this material and then you can't find no references to it.
Right.
The references are all screwed up. So you don't know if he said it or if he didn't say it. Sloppily done. When all you have to do is just, we have it. Just play it. It's very simple.
At this point, we're going to ask Imam Duhan if he would play the second clip. This is a phone call interview with Imam W. Deen Mohammed 1 week after his 2003 resignation.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. I am Imam Rafeeq Mohammed. Welcome you to another segment of Al-Islam and community life in America. On this segment, we are blessed that we will be going right to Chicago to Imam W. Deen Mohammed's ministry in Mosque Cares, to his office, and we'll be able to address him and ask the pertinent questions after his resignation as the leader of the American Society of Muslims. I understand Imam is on the phone right now, so assalamu alaikum, brother Imam. Alhamdulillah. We praise God and thank you, Brother Imam, for consenting to this interview. The reaction of the general public, especially the non-Muslims, to your resigning as the leader of the American Muslim Society was one of shock and anticipation, because your leadership is valued greatly by a lot of people on the East Coast of all different nationalities and backgrounds, and your voice is the one that we trust. So we thought we would come before you or ask you to consent to this interview, to ask you the questions that are on our mind. The first question we have is, will you explain to the audience the announcement that you made at the annual Islamic Convention, the announcement, the ones that we didn't hear? We would like for you to make that announcement to us now.
Yes, I was invited, as always, as yearly, I'm invited to meet with the imams, and I look forward to a chance to meet with them. And this time, I had planned before. I didn't want to let it get out to the public before I said it to the imams, the leaders. I had planned to announce my resignation from the position of leader, spiritual leader, or leader of the ASM, the North American Society of Muslims. So when I met with them, I made that statement, and I explained to them why I had decided to make that statement at that time. And it was because I didn't want to go and get to the public first, get to the press before they got it. And it was a chance for me to make it before most of the imams of our community. Few of the imams were there, but I believe most of the majority of the imams were there. I have been gradually bringing the followers, or at least the thinking of the followers, from what was a lot of organization in their life, what was the Nation of Islam with this structure that, well, actually accepted to be responsible for the life of its members. We can't be responsible as Muslims, as real Muslims, understanding Islam from the Quran and the life of Muhammad the Prophet, prayers and peace be on him. We can't be responsible for the life of people. We can only invite them to Islam, to the Quran, and the way of Muhammad, how he practiced that religion, how he lived the religion, and leave them to be responsible for making choices and decisions in their life. They have to have freedom of speech. They have to have their own opinions if they want to. They have to be free to differ with us. That's my life. That's the only life that I can be comfortable with. I've always been that way. Even as a boy, I was that way. I felt that people should be free to serve God, and they should be respected as human beings who are entitled to their own intelligence, entitled to exercise their own intelligence, their own good judgment, have their own opinions. And that was always the spirit in me. So there's nothing new. I haven't surprised anybody. If they know me, they know me to be that kind of person. I've tried to influence as many as possible in the leadership to accept that, even if they are not that kind of person themselves. You know, we may be the kind of person who's like a lot of authority over us, and we like to work with an authoritative body or authoritative group that assumes a lot of authority. But we shouldn't impose that upon the general membership of a masjid or the organization or the congregation. We shouldn't impose that upon them. We should encourage them to take responsibility for their own lives and to even question us and say, this is how it was for Muhammad the Prophet. They questioned him, and in the Quran, God says, ask the question. If you got question, then question, ask questions. That's encouraged in the Quran, and Prophet Muhammad, and after him, the leaders that succeeded him, the great Caliph, they encouraged their people too, to not follow them blindly, but to question them and even differ with them if they felt they should. That has not been, that kind of freedom, openness has not been encouraged by too many of the imams, and they fear my influence. I'm telling you, I have to tell you exactly what the problem was and is, I believe, still. They feared my influence, so they limited my own, they put a limit on how much of my own thinking and how much of my own words would reach their congregation. That they didn't want, they would fight against it. And if it reached them, then they would be the ones to interpret what I said. That needed no interpretation, but they would say, now let me explain to you what this Imam Muhammad means. I have to explain to you. You don't know what the, let me tell you what the Imam is saying, you know. That's so they can give their own message to the people under the pretense that they're clearing up what I said, you see. So I've gone through that for years, and that's sickening, because I don't think there's any excuse for imams to be that small-minded, unless they just fear their own ability and don't fear that they have the ability or the education or whatever to lead the people in the way that I want them to be led, and that is in the way that the Quran say we should guide people or be responsible for the leadership. And following the example of the Prophet Muhammad, who was a very open man, and he didn't take charge of a person's life. He never tried to dictate to people or impose his will upon people or deny them free expression. He encouraged free expression. So we are not following this religion if we don't do the thing. That's the big problem.
Okay, Brother Man.
Imam Rafeeq. A lot there.
There's a lot there, yeah.
He said that is the big problem. Free expression.
Yeah, we see that stuff. We see it playing out in 2023 when Imam Muhammad was invited to Birmingham. And the influence was to bring him there. And once it was known that he was coming there, they shut it down. Why? Same kind of stuff, same reason. Limit the influence in the messages. Same thing. They're doing the same thing. Nothing has changed.
Nothing.
I think what is even more telling with this here is that, and I'm not trying to interpret the Imam's anything that he's saying here, but I can get a sense in terms of his annoyance and frustration with this here, because he has said that this has happened numerous times over the years, and this is something that he just couldn't tolerate anymore. And even after that resignation, Imam Muhammad started looking at second generation Muslims, and was starting to have classes with them to vouchsafe a lot of his language within them. But I tell you today is that if we continue along the line that the Imam wanted us to do, and we're about the future that he wants for his community, a clean shroud, we have to encourage everyone that supports this leadership or this continuation of this leadership, that we have to have some very serious minds, because this repair that we're doing is very, very serious work.
Yeah,
it basically is, you know.
We have two dynamics though. We have people in our community that don't know. And then you have people in the community that when you present the knowledge to them, you say, this is Imam W. Muhammad in his own words. And then they say, well, you know, get that out of here. I don't really have to. Why you giving me that, addressing Imam W. Muhammad? We have people like that. and then you have people that don't know anything at all. So we have to make sure that they understand these things. But to me, it seems like a lot of the people have chosen whatever it is, the attraction from these other imams. And like Imam Abdul Muhammad was saying in the class, that they sit underneath of these people. They don't do anything. They don't lead them anywhere. They just make slaves out of them. And some of them satisfied with that.
Prisoners.
Just like Imam Terenzo El Amin in Cincinnati. This is a young man that really represents the future of Islam in the city of Cincinnati. And they look at him and say, that ain't that important. So we got people like that we just have to move out our way.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's not that many of them anymore, and the new day is here, and the light is on.
Imam Rafeeq, for the viewing audience that may not have had the chance to see the first episode that we had you on, could you speak to this large archive of material that you have and your plans for it in the future?
Oh yeah, it's quite a bit. It's quite extensive. Like things that we shared with them tonight. There's all kinds of things in there, and I think that I didn't ask for it. They just fell into my lap. So I believe that Allah wanted me to have it because of my sincerity and my belief that it was valuable, and I would hold on to it and take care of it. And me being associated with Imam Abdul Muhammad. I think all of that is significant. But there's several major collections in it that span from the southern region to the northeast, to the central region, Chicago, Milwaukee, and the West Coast. We have things from Oakland, Los Angeles, all around the country, Dallas. So it's a pretty good collection, and our plans is to share as much of it as we can with everybody. And it will be under the Muslim American Ministry for Human Salvation.
We're looking forward to benefiting from your work, because we have benefited from your work in the past with your YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Imam Rafeeq, do you have anything that you would like to share with us in regards to anything upcoming? I wanted to ask you this. Do people still get in contact with you in regards to materials that want to put in your possession?
Well, a lot of that was done through my Facebook page, which was hacked, which is another thing. It was hacked and it was taken over by somebody that had an interest in taking it over. So I haven't really had any contact with anybody in the community, really, because that's how they used to contact me, through my direct messaging on that Facebook page. And since it's been shut down now for, I don't know, maybe like 2 years now, I haven't been in contact with many people in the community or about collections. But that's how they used to do it. They would hit my DM and call me, and then we would discuss it and how would we get the material from one place to another place.
Imam, before we close tonight, I just wanted to pivot just a little bit. I see in your lapel there, you have the Palestinian flag along with our national flag, our solidarity with the Palestinian people. Can you speak to the determination and struggle of the Palestinian people, and why we should support that as African American Muslims?
Well, it's something that we should definitely support, and wherever there's oppression in the world, we should definitely support those people who are being oppressed. That's our tradition, and I'm proud to be a part of that tradition. And I will always stand up for them and fight for them if I have to myself.
It's somewhat ironic that we find ourselves in this day and time, but Imam Abdul-Malik Muhammad has told us that there's no other people more fitting than us to speak to that and address it. We have a history that goes a little deeper into the struggle of being free and not owned, coming out of an oppressive state that when we articulated, especially in the clear language of the scripture and what God wants for the humanity, it's believed by us because Allah Himself has raised us as an example for that. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, it's just Imam W. Muhammad, he gave an address in Atlanta. And it may have been after his trip from Palestine. It was a Jummah that he did, where he spoke about this way before what we know now is the conflict that's going on now after October the 7th. This may have been maybe 12 years before this, where he was saying how significant they are as a group of people, and how we should always have them in our sights as we make progress.
Yeah. Imam Terenza, why aren't we speaking this way? I'm not talking about us, but you know what I mean. I mean, as African American Muslim who have experienced this here, our ancestors have laid it out for us. We're the products of their hard work and determination. We're from the guided tradition. Why aren't we speaking that way? And we claim that we follow Imam W. Deen Mohammed.
Well, good question. Imam Rafeeq, we thank you for joining us for another episode of Bilalian Voices. We plan to have you back because of what you possess as far as the archive of Imam W. Deen Mohammed and the work that you have done in collecting that. We would like to have you back because there's so much more that we would like to share with the people that the people are not aware of. I know a lot of people had not seen the 2003 resignation delivered by Imam Earl Abdul-Malik Muhammad.
Yeah, I hadn't seen it. I heard about it. Like at the time, I heard about it, but I had never seen the recording. That's that, if you don't have it in, this Mosque's catalog, I keep one of these. If you don't have it in here, then it doesn't exist. Because this is how the community gets information and lectures from Imam W. Deen Mohammed. So it was definitely something that was I've only seen one, and I did happen to have one copy of it.
Well, as a curator, you better protect that, because I'm thinking that they're going to try to take that and bury it up under some mountain.
They already have, brother. They buried a lot of this. A lot of it is buried. I can tell when I go through what we have and compare it to what's in here. That's how I know.
Right.
Well, thank you again, viewing audience, for joining us for episode 11 with Imam Rafeeq Mohammed by way of Atlanta, Georgia. A very informative and an enlightening conversation. Before we conclude, we'd like to make a few announcements. Again, this Sunday in Detroit, Michigan, Imam Earl Abdul-Malik Muhammad, Muslim American leader following in the tradition of Imam W. Deen Mohammed, will give a major public address in Detroit, Michigan, entitled Cities of America Come Alive, Islam and the Salvation Road. This Sunday, doors open at 1:30 p.m. Program begins at 2 p.m. Free and open to the public. Sunday, June 2nd, Imam Earl Abdul Malik Mohammed has been invited by the citizens of Dallas, Texas, to give a major public address entitled Standing in the Last Days, Islam, Humanity, and an Intelligent Morality. And our last announcement, our Imam will be returning for the 4th time to the annual Independence Day public address there in Rochester, New York. His topic, the sacred aim of neighborhood excellence, restoring the lost property of the American people. For more information, you can go to MuslimAmericanMinistry.com. And at this time, we would like to close out with the dua of Imam W. Deen Mohammed. O Allah, we cannot manage this life for ourselves, not without you. Please make our life what you would want it to be, what you prefer it to be. Do not allow us to act on our own. Help us to act only in obedience to you. We hear you, we obey you, we look to you for forgiveness, our Lord, and to you is our destination. Ameen.
Ameen.
Until the next time, peace.